This is the quickest in a long time that the game has opened back up and lockout has lifted. So shout out to the NRL for doing that job really, really well. And we beat Supercoach this time. It's been a good while now where Supercoach would be lockout would be lifted pretty early and we'd have to wait till after lunchtime. And it was done really, really early. So shout out to the NRL for that. And we're here with my results for the week. 902 points for myself. And we're going to get someone to jump on and go through their results as well. And the goal is to have someone on each week for the weekly results video and also the trades video, just so you can get a different perspective on there and a bit of a discussion back and forth with myself as well. So we'll get my section first, and then you'll see once I'm done, we'll transition into the second portion of this video going through another team of guys from the private group, which will be good fun. But 902, 14,412. There were a couple of little bits and pieces that got changed overnight and this morning, and I was sitting about 11,800, 12,000 there, and lost a couple thousand spots, but that's okay. I knew I was losing 2 points there from Yo, which meant 4 as captain for sure. But there was a lot of good things that happened in my team this week, and then the one glaring issue. But David Wiley, 14 points for him. Outside of that, pretty happy overall with how things worked out for my side. I looped Rob Toya and Chuck Stafford Toa in there in the start, and worked out better than owning Jackson Purdue at this point. And I did drop down from Jacob Preston down to AJ Brimson. So sitting there with 309k in the bank. And the reason I dropped down was just to set myself up for trades this coming week. Obviously, Horsburgh, a big target for me, and Davin Wiley to Corey Horsburgh, a very, very simple trade. That's for sure. He's the guy that will go. I'm not confident with his minutes and points, and there's other guys that didn't go as well. Seyfarth, Metcalf, these types of guys that they definitely have scope to go and improve plenty. Mawale does as well, but a 14 means he's not going to make me any good cash in any good time, and he definitely didn't start anywhere near like I hoped. So he'll be the one to definitely go, and we'll make some other decisions from there. But overall, this week and in this round one compared to normal, there were so many better scores, which is great. Cash cows for the most part did pretty well. Outside of like Nafahu White in the 400s, it wasn't great in that section where we thought there might be a bit of value, and it just shows that guns and cashy strategy just wins each and every year. And I tried to do that for the most part, and it was a much improved round one for me after being sort of 40 odd thousand and having sort of a tough 2 to 3 rounds in recent history. I think I'm set up in a much better situation to have a better season this year, and coming 101st 2 years ago and 750th after a bit of a fall away in the last few rounds from 200th. I think that I've definitely had a better round one than I've had in those couple of years, and I'm not making terrible decisions already in round two, getting good mids in guys like Horsburgh. So I think this year will be a much better start, and I won't have to sort of chase my tail in certain rounds. But Watson up top with 65, it was him or Grant for a lot of people, and I'm glad I never wavered from the Watson train from early days. Obviously their squad is in a bit of curry at the moment, and they got absolutely smashed. But it was great to see him get his tackling in, which we know he does. He's such a workhorse, and got that 80 minutes with a few injuries that they have had leading into this round one, and they're very, very short in terms of experience campaigners and really good players. And I think Watson has to be on the park for the majority of minutes each and every game, and we're likely to not, well, we're definitely not going to see Radley, and we're not going to see guys like Butcher again this week. So expect Watson to continue with some really big minutes. I'm seeing a few people already going, oh, Grant, I'll trade Grant to Watson. But if you pick Grant from ball one, you picked him there for a reason, knowing he had the bye in round two, knowing he had the Panthers in round three, and you thought that he was going to be better than than Watson, and he probably still is. So don't trade now. If you got 55 in round one, would you trade? I don't think so. Just because Watson exceeded him in that first round, you can't waver, in my opinion, from someone like Grant. He is a keeper. He's a guy that you can hold all year, and he will be at 55 to 60 type of scorer. It will happen. There was like 80 points in that game, or 70 odd points, something crazy. So not one you need to waver with there. But I'm very happy with Watson, and Mamas Ellis is my other hooker. A pretty solid effort from him in this one. How'd you guys go as well, by the way? I've seen a few people commenting down below. So make sure you do that. Let me know how things played out for you. Isaiah Yeo, captain Tim over Cleary at 136. He ended up with Cleary's 56. So it was only a 12-point difference if you did own both. A 12-point improvement on your captain. Remember, guys, how you check that is if you add 136 and 56, for those that this keeps coming up every week, what you get there is 192, right? If you doubled Cleary, it'd be 112 plus Yo's 68. It's only 12 points less, right? So it doesn't, if you don't have, if you captain Cleary and don't have Yo, then there's obviously a bigger difference because you have to compare who you have as a Yo replacement. If it was Haas, you won out pretty comfortably anyway. So happy with that situation with him. Davin Wiley with 14, he will be gone, and we should see a better score in that position next week. So should be improving and on the up. Terrell Mayer must have. Make sure you get him if you haven't. And it's still ridiculous that he's 41% owned. What a ridiculous thing to see. And if you are a follower of my channel, guys, have a look at changing your tag name at the start to JBFA Jamie, and I'll give you shout outs when I do see you in the rankings. And we'll go through in this results video, my squad. We'll go through all of the leagues, the private group, the JBFA, overall for the public. We'll go through the actual rankings as well, and shout out to Jade there in the top spot at the moment. But Zach Hosking for me, 62, very happy with that output. Unsure how it's going to go longer term with minutes, and I'm interested to see the team list this week if we do see Matty Nicholson in that spot. Hopefully for Hosking, it's still a high 60s minutes-wise, and he doesn't get stuck hitting like a 43 in that 67 minutes or something like that, and maybe a try this week would be nice. He went 69 into a 90-odd last year. Let's hope that he can do the same. With Seyfarth, the 29 for him, it wasn't exciting. He obviously lost the extra point from 30, which makes it look even worse. He should be a hold because there's definitely some scope for players to run at him a little bit more. He averages in the 40s with tackles when he does start, and that's the exciting thing with him. He didn't get that opportunity. He had the HIA as well. He would have been a mid-30s guys this week, and in a game where base stats weren't there for him, and he hardly run the footy. So you can imagine he won't have less than 45 run meters, and he won't have less than sort of 30 tackles again. So Seyfarth is fine as a hold this week, and I'm going to look to try and do it. We'll see how things play out, obviously, with team lists and the like there. With Cleary, I think he's going to be the best captaincy option this week, coming up against the Roosters there. Bit different to last week, being a closer type of matchup. That's why I went for Yo, and I think Cleary, the team will be a little bit better for that run, dust off some of those cobwebs, and he'll be a terrific captaincy option. And shout out to first overall in the rankings there. Was it first overall or close to it? They their halves pairing was Dearden and Sandon Smith. So it can be pretty different in the first few rounds, guys. So just you continue to look to build and improve your squad, and you will improve. It's as simple as that. And these first few rounds are pretty volatile with rankings and with scores. So just be aware of that. The best coaches last year, they went bang, 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 improved into round 3, 4, 5. And then, we're in some decent spot and continued on from there. Metcalf, they come up against Manly, so it'll be a tough one for him. So he's one that I'm potentially looking at moving on from, but we'll have to, again, see what happens with team lists. The 24 for him, he loses 15K, and it wasn't, or something like that. It wasn't perfect at all. Hopefully he can improve, but they come up against a better outfit, in my opinion, in Manly. Dylan Lucas picked up an extra point overnight, so that was ideal. 57 for him, a terrific game. And I think there's going to be games where he has try assists, he has tries, and there'll be other ones where he gets a little bit more traffic coming his way in terms of tackles. So very similar to, obviously in the same game, Lucas and Seyfarth, the game was played on the other side. So unfortunately for those two, the base stats weren't accrued as much as it might in other games. So just be aware of those kind of things. Look at the sides where the tackles are, and that always reverts back to the mean in terms of the average there for sure. So Lucas, happy with him. He'll be locked and loaded for the entire year. Staffatoa, hopefully he plays this week. If he doesn't, maybe it's another week. But at worst, he's a looper, and he ends up being a guy that is next up in line. But I do think he's better than Fatape, and he should keep that spot. Tamale, very happy to own him. Picked up 29K in gains this week. I actually didn't make as much money as an overall squad as I might have thought, but still pretty solid overall. I think I'm about 150K less than what happened for the first overall coach. So it's pretty big difference already there. But Tamale, very, very happy with the purchase. So I'll look to play him this week coming, but it's up against Brisbane, so it'll be definitely a harder matchup, but still a great guy to own. Yongi with 28, he does come up against the Tigers this week, so a much better outfit he's going to go up against. I think he'll score better for sure. Probably a few less missed tackles, and hopefully he can score some attacking stats. Kalen Ponga, 62 for him. Guys, make sure you do subscribe, follow along on YouTube and the podcast as well. Ponga, I'm expecting a pretty good game out of him. I do expect the Knights to beat the Dolphins, and it's going to be a fun clash for guys like Ponga, Lucas, Marzu, these types of guys there for sure. Carpus Paul on the other side, Fletcher Sharp, all those attacking style of plays. I think they'll have a bit of an improved game, and hopefully a little bit more on the attack side for those guys. And I'm excited for Ponga to go big in this one. That's my hope anyway. On the interchange sides, we played Tom Duffy, Mamazelis, Humphreys, Lockie Hubner, and 34 was the lowest there. And then I did loop in Rob Toyer, as I said. Guys that didn't play, I end up trading in Brimson. He sat in emergency 7. We had Cole in 5, didn't play him. And then Sandon Smith in 8 in the emergencies there, didn't play him for his 44. And this is just a quick idea in it, and to show you how looping works. Stafford Toa wasn't going to play this week. He wasn't named with the injury. Rob Toyer decided to loop him. If he didn't go well, I was going to keep Jackson Purdue, which, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad Toyer got sort of over 30, I think was going to be my play. If he went 30 plus, I was going to keep Toyer and go with Stafford. Anything under that, I think I was going to grab Purdue and play him instead of Stafford. So happy with that one with Rob, but you just pop him in the starting side and you can get your next center from interchange 1 all the way to 6 or all the way to the end. He's the only center on my list, so he comes in as the loop. When we said loop, it's all about just auto emergency. So if your players are laid out, for example, the reason they have that is so that you can then have someone from your emergency, your interchange first. It goes down the order. If it's someone from your interchange that would come in, and it highlights them, as you see here, it highlights Toyer and has Cole in grey. It would take your interchange 1 if he was the center, and then your number 5 then, Jack Cole, would slot up. But in this scenario, he's the first center on the list, and it has to be a center if you have a non-playing guy in your starting center. That's where Toyer came in. Rewatch that a couple of times. Check out my looping video as well. Fantasy basics, looping, all different things you can do in that scenario, because if Toyer came out and got a 5, that's where the safety comes in. I can just pick someone else. And a little bit different this week for the fact that I do have, Brimson, I've got Tamale that can go into center, so I can do some interesting things if someone is out, but you need someone on a bye or someone out in your side to do that. But with Hubner, 34 for him, he made 16K, played massive minutes. I'm so happy to be owning him. There will be games where he increases that PPM. If not, you just expect 34, 35, 40 in 60 minutes pretty comfortably, I think, for someone that hits a 54 average in Q Cup, but hasn't had that transition too well in the NRL so far in terms of PPM. Jamie Goatfree's so good. 403K now, up 53K. My must-have of the preseason at that cheap price, and he delivered, and I very much hope that he is named in TLT on Tuesday. Super excited to see that one continue going, and at least I'll be removing one of my South, so I don't have 4, which, a couple of those scores are pretty good. Thank goodness for Humphreys. That 89 between Jamie and Moale saved me from having a tough week, 44 each, basically, 44 and a half. Helped me out. And then Mamazel's 35, and then Duffy in a game where they got pumped, managed 39 and gets his price moving in the right direction. So overall, cash gains, pretty happy with how everything's set up. Had 2 guys in my starting team not play, so that's where obviously a bit of cash can change. And Moale went down a good amount. Metcalf went down. Seyfarth went down. Yo just went up that slight amount there by 1K, crazily enough, with how well everyone scored. Terrell May went up plenty, 27K. Make sure you have guys like that in your side. And I'm excited for the week to come. Brimson's going to come in. He does play the Dogs, and I was really keen on Jaden Campbell. It's going to be hard to fit him in, minus an injury popping up. And those Titans, they play the Dogs in the last game of the round. Why are they playing the last game? That's my big question coming out of this one for sure. So strange. And shout out to Payne Haas for having an absolutely dominant game there of 81. Adam Fanua-Blake, anyone who had, May, Haas, Adam Fanua-Blake, or Yo did incredibly well. All right, big shout out to some of these guys in first place. Yes, there's Harley, and I love how he posted as an anonymous participant on one of the Facebook groups, showing off his first place team, but anonymously. That's always nice, mate. We can tell who you are. Don't know why he had to be anonymous, but yeah, did and Stan Smith in the starting halves. If you had guys like Garrick that worked well, he went Arthurs in the wing fullback. Guys like Jake Tungle and Purdue down there that struggled a little bit, but had Gilbert, Turbo, Humphreys, Duffy, and lots of good scores across the park outside of that with Payne Haas as captain and John Bevan at 607k now with a really good start at 57. And shout out to Jade, who's leading our JBFA overall public community. She had a cracking score as well with Payne Haas in there. And Shibasaki, a lot of people with some Broncos players, which makes a lot of sense. Hosking in there with Horsburgh as well, Gilbert, Humphreys, Toya. Didn't play like a Duffy or a Sandon Smith. Had Munster in there with Garrick, with Marzu. So a lot of good things happening in this side. And actually Captain Terrell May, which I mentioned was a good idea as well. So shout out to Jade on that one. Oh, actually, my squad value isn't too bad. I thought it was less than that, but it wasn't including cash in the bank. So there you go. There you go. 10.234 million for myself. Go into rankings and it'll show your position and your squad value there. So I'm about 110 behind. So there you go. 10.37 for Manning down there and 10.383 for Josh in fifth. So shout out to Harley, Jade, Manning, David L, and Josh H. Oh, you had Couchman, Gilbert, May, Hosking, Olakawatu, nice work. Pappenhausen and Meany, oh my goodness. Plathy, Xavier Coates, Samuel Lefanu. All right, yeah, basically every pod went well in this team. So shout out to them on that one, that's for sure. There you go. If you're down here on the list as I'm scrolling through, congrats to you on that one. Alrighty, let's get into my leagues and check it all out. So I am admin of a few of the private head-to-head crews, but shout out to Katie for beating me in my private, the private group head-to-head one, and just give you a little shout out to everyone in this crew as well. If you're on the screen, shout out to Zarin at 9:43. We had Katie who beat me at 9:39, Stephen at 9:31. You had Brendan at 9:24, Steve at 9:25. There are some of the biggest scores with Josh Norton at 9:33, and everyone else in this crew pretty solid. There was no one that really had an absolute shocker, apart from Cade. What are you doing, Cade? 740 in this one. Yeah, both Steves, actually. Yeah, it's 930, so well done on that. And to everyone else, you got this. Next week will be the play. So, yeah, 13th for me in that one. Private crew, shout out to Jake, who tipped the scale at 1,000 with his JBFA tag as well. Good man. We had Shane, Cole, Alakai, Henry, Johnny, Mitch, Sam, Harry, and Jackson rounding out the top 10. And a little quick on-screen shout-out to those guys in the next top 10, heading to the top 20 with Ewan down there in that spot. So good work to you guys on that one. And I've got 98 points to catch up to you guys, and I can't wait to push for that. Personally, sitting at 165th overall in the private crew, which is shows there's definitely a lot of good players out there, and we'll see how that shakes out over the next few weeks, that's for sure. And as I said, Jade leading the overall league there. And then I've just got a couple of different bits and pieces. And for the full-time sports bar and eatery league, I'm at 354th, which is tough going, and 786 in the Cowboys. But to start this in this level, I'm very, very happy with how that ended up. Quick shout out, you'll get Mitch's video tomorrow morning. He picked up a 941, so we've got 39 to catch up on with him. And a little bit upset with the podcasters league right now. We have no talking league, unfortunately. There, I do see. Thankfully, I do see the amateurs. I thought they weren't in it either. So, we do see Mike Jessup down there as well in 821. It was a bit of a tough one, and for other guys in there, we had Lucy, which is one of the boys' overall teams. We got Nikki down at 856. Obviously, with the Bradman Best hurt him a little bit. Mr. Fantasy Pro app there at 868. So there's a few guys that I did beat out in this one, which is a solid start out of 32 people in this league. I'm sitting at 8th right now, which is a perfect place to begin. And a shout out to a few of the guys up there that have done good things, and then Scoop at 889. So we're kind of spread out there, Mitch got us by 40. I'm in the next spot. Scoot behind me by 13 only. And then we've got we've got Nikki down there at 858, 856, who'll have a good improving week for sure. Shout out to Will as well from the NRL Fantasy Fanatics in there at 17th with an 882, a good start. And then Chris, obviously, in there as well. And who else we got that people know? We've got Austin, we're talking about last year, 927, had a really good start as well. So shout out to him on that one. And we've got Daniel Long in there at 887. Obviously, he was on the... Did he not get Bradman Best in the end? No way. Longy didn't go for Bradman Best. That's a crime, mate. That is an absolute crime that he didn't go for him in the end. And that's cool. You can just go in and into leagues and see where everyone's at. And, he obviously started with Campbell, which is a fun pick as well. But yeah, guys, we'll get into my Supercoach round results as well once everything's locked out and good to go. We'll find out that one a little bit later, but I think we're all pretty well set. We've got the rankings, we've got my leagues, and then we're going to jump over and into the second part of this video and jump on with another crew member from the private crew, and we'll go through their team as well. If you want to go through that back and forth and ask some questions and general idea of what they want to do, then stick around for that. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers, guys. So Heath is here with us to talk through his team, just at the back end of this round results video, mate. An 876 for you, 29,345 overall. Feels pretty stock standard for how the last few years have gone, hey? And what do you think of your week in general?
Well, I think with a score coming in like 876, I think in other years I probably would have thought I was going to rank a lot higher.
Yeah.
But I think it's just been one of those weeks where all the cheapies and that we put the homework into and looked up have done really well. So quite tough. I think most players sort of met their break evens or at least exceeded this week. So while the rank maybe isn't my favourite thing to look at, I think I'm pretty happy with how most players performed. There's a few in there that I think most of us are stuck with, like Metcalf and maybe some Seyfarths. Clark's definitely one that I've got to look at myself. I was high on him in the off season and didn't get the score I wanted. The minutes were there, but that Warriors team was definitely a weird one to try and judge. So yeah, it's an odd sort of first week. There's not too many clear-cut trade targets, I don't think. However, there's a few clear trade-ins, so I
Yeah,
think I'm going to have to find a few.
that's for sure. Made that Clark and Metcalf. Did you? Yeah, Metcalf down there. Yeah, that'd have been tough to look at for such a long time. That round one went so long, didn't it? What do you think of the footy in general? Your Sharkies had a up and down sort of round one, didn't they?
Yeah, I wasn't too disappointed actually with our performance on that. I know I had sort of high hopes. I did end up tipping us, thinking that we'd come back for a little bit of vengeance for the finals, but I knew Penrith were probably going to turn up for that Vegas game.
Yeah.
For it to end up being so close within the last sort of few minutes and us to put that comeback in, can't be too disappointed, especially first game. And then I think overall, other than what we had, Tigers and Knights was a little bit low scoring, but I think that was still a really good game to sort of see where those two teams are at. Otherwise, I think there were quite a few points flowing for most of the teams. Seemed to do well for a few more attacking stats and backs. And then there were a few teams that, like the Wars, that maybe are a little bit of worry. Other than that, nothing too much that stood out for me. I think most of the teams that you would have expected to win probably got up over the weekend, unless you were silly and a Sharks fan like me and took them against Penrith.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I thought they were a decent chance as well. And welcome into Nate, who had actually had a better week than both of us, mate. Welcome in, and we'll get to your team shortly as well. How you doing?
There you go, brother.
Yeah, we're good. Good to have you back on after seeing your face last week, and people seeing your team, and you came out and did a good job. So we'll scroll back up to the top of our leagues and find you very shortly. But Heath, there with your
Plenty
score,
on
mate,
this side, man. You're wild.
obviously happy with Horsburgh and Hosking there to kick things off, and then Fisher Harris's 51 was pretty solid. He had some lower ones as you said with Clarkey there with Hopgood and probably pretty happy with like guys like Nwangani Tawaze with his 37 in an absolute smashing and you don't have to chase that Horsburgh, which is pretty cool. And do you have any general thoughts this week on guys that might be a sell for you and those that you're probably just going to hold steady with and hope for a better score?
I think Metcalf's probably going to have to go. I think he's going to slow down a little bit on price rises. I think he definitely make cash eventually. I don't think you need to trade him out, but I think sort of with team structure, he's probably the easiest to trade out. He'll slow down a little bit,
Yep.
especially with Humphreys if he holds that spot for Rabbitohs. It just seems clear cut. He'll sort of make that money so quickly. Otherwise, Seyfarth and Clark, probably my other two that I'm tossing up between. I've got a little bit of money in the bank, so I could look to move them to a Gilbert or a Brimo. Um, the hard part with Brimo is that right before it all kicked off, after our team list, actually, sort of about Thursday, I had Brimo and I had Humphreys sitting in there,
Oh,
and I brought them both out for Hopgood and I can't remember who the second one was.
Hubner or something.
Hubner. Hubner, yeah.
Mm.
So hurt a little bit to see those scores, and now I'm probably chasing back those two players this week. But I think it's just about correcting those mistakes.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and that's probably the plan for this week so far. Don't see much change in it unless team lists are a bit crazy.
Yeah, it feels that way for most teams, eh? Just correcting a few little things. Like you've got some winning picks there, and I'm personally expecting Hopgood to have a really good game and a bounce back. And yeah, the Warriors is a little bit of a worry come up against Manly for sure. So yeah, it just would be. I think it's cool, guys. We'll just have different people on each week and hear their thoughts, and if anything, kind of is glaringly obvious, I can try and help you out with that one as well. But yeah, thanks for that, Heath. And we will scroll up, Nate. What was your score in the end? Nine what?
956.
You beauty. What a good start that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
There
and that
he
was
is.
without Jaden Campbell.
958.
So I was pretty happy with that. Oh, it must have corrected. There you
How
go.
good. And
I'll take
958 for
it.
you, mate. 877 the overall rank. So yeah, a cracking start and a position we'd like to really capitalize on, with that awesome start. And you would have made some decent cash as well, I imagine. And still
Oh,
had a
yeah.
few low scores in there with Preston's 42 compared to what we know he can provide. And you even started with Jaden Campbell. So I think that's a massive win, mate. And with Humphreys as well, and yeah, looped into Male. So a great start for you, mate. And yeah, any thoughts on where the team's at and any potential moves or strategy going forward?
Well, mate, to be honest, I've never had this good of a start, so I didn't really know what to do this week. I'm actually sitting here contemplating for the first time ever not trading in the first
Oh,
week.
baby.
I'm looking at it and I'm going like, I don't have a lot of cash,
Hmm.
and that's how I was able to put this together. But
Yep.
like Metcalf, I feel, and like we've been talking about it, I feel like he really had his absolute bottom score. Like he hit his floor. I
Yep.
don't see him going lower than that. So, you know, if I was going to trade anyone out, it'd be Metcalf and maybe Iongi. But because everyone has Iongi and, he basically had his floor game as well, I don't know. I think giving them at least another couple of weeks would be a good idea if they make the team again.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that,
Yeah.
mate. It feels like Yongi comes up against Tigers this week, and they're not going to get pumped by 60, which is good. And expect Preston to play better. Metcalf should be better than that. You've got Lucas and Toya. Toya comes up against the Panthers. We'll see how that one goes. But Campbell comes in. You've got the two sort of must have type of players in Horsburgh and Humphreys this week. And obviously, if you are able to hold trades, there's no sort of clear cash cow you missed. And holding trades seems like a cracking move this week, mate. I'm yeah pretty impressed that you're thinking that way as well because everyone gets that itch to hit the trade button in the first week as well. So yeah, I think doing that now is going to put you in good stead for a really good season, and you should improve this week as well, which would be really cool.
Yeah, certainly hope so. I was very, very happy for Campbell in the week that I was going to have him not in there, that Tamale came through and that kid just absolutely scores fantasy points constantly. He's amazing. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
he blitzed it. Very happy with
Oh, he
that.
did. And with Preston, I'm not too worried. Pretty much the whole game was played on the opposite side to him.
Yeah.
But anytime he got the ball, he was making tackle busts and he was sort of looking dangerous. And he
Hmm.
played the full 80, which I was surprised at. But they got a couple of players coming back, so we'll see if he keeps that 80. But if he does, ooh, he could really go to the moon this season.
Yeah, definitely. Similar to you, Heath, there with Hopgood. I feel like him and Preston had their kind of pretty well floor games and should improve from there. And yeah, guys like Greg Marzoo coming up against your Dolphins this week, Nate. They didn't look great.
Oh,
They didn't look great. So could be a fun one
they
on
look better
Thursday
than
night.
Para.
Oh yeah, and maybe the Cowboys too. So
Yeah.
God,
There was a
yeah, it
lot of
was.
blowouts this week, which I was surprised at, to be honest. Like the games were a lot closer last season, and to have like two 50-point blowouts in the first round, you don't see that often.
Yeah, and the Manly one could have been worse as well. They started so hot too. So
Mm.
yeah, I think we'll leave it there, guys. Just short and sweet for our our results videos. Just get a few people on here, and we'll have different people each week. Will be cool. And let me know if you guys do like that in the comments, having a few people on, and we'll be able to follow your journeys as well in the overall stuff. So thanks to Nate and to Heath. We've got three different scores from the three of us, and yeah, it'd be good fun to see where we all end up each and every week. So thanks, guys, and we'll catch you all in the next video.
Cheers, mate.